Hello there. Welcome to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. This is your host, Anthony King, and along with Mrs. Force Ghost Conversations, Elise King, we will be discussing episodes 6 and 7 from Season 3 of The Bad Batch. Before we get started, I'm inviting you to support Force Ghost Conversations on Patreon. If you're a fan of the podcast and would like to consider pledging your support, there will be a link in the episode description for you to check out the various tiers offered. Also, please be sure to check out our TeePublic store to buy some Force Ghost Conversations merchandise. And without further ado, it's time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. All right, everybody, welcome back to Force Ghost Conversations. This is an exciting Bad Batch episode, a two-parter that we have here to discuss on the show. And Mrs. Force Ghost Conversations, Elise King, is back from her little hiatus for a week when she wasn't feeling well to bring her thoughts and insights into the show. And we have a great conversation about these two episodes of the Bad Batch. Episodes 6 and 7, Infiltration and Extraction. It's a great two-parter episode, and I hope that you've watched it beforehand before listening to our conversation. You don't want to miss it. I think it was a pretty good one, personally. So before we get into that spoiler conversation, let's run through the Cloud City gossip this week, the news in the Lucasfilm Star Wars galaxy that took place over the last couple of days. And there really wasn't a whole lot in terms of news for this aspect of the galaxy, if you will. The only thing that I could really pinpoint was that was confirmed too. Let me just say that, because there's a lot of rumors out there about stuff. The only thing I could actually confirm was that the re-release of the classic collection of Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2 from 2004 and 2005, was released today, or at least not today, but on March 14th. So you can download it now if you wanted to, or unless you had it pre-ordered and all that stuff. If you want to replay some upscaled versions with some new maps for the classic Battlefront 1 and 2 game that was so pivotal to my Star Wars journey as a young student, a young Jedi, young Padawan, if you will. I've heard some mixed reviews about it. It is an almost 20-year-old game at this point. So, I wouldn't expect a whole lot in terms of upscaling. I know there's some server issues with the online multiplayer gameplay aspects of it. I hope they're fixing all of that as we speak, so that the people that pay for it can get their just due on what they expected for the return on investment for that. I hope it all clears out fine. I still actually have the original versions of the game that I downloaded to my Xbox Series X before all this was announced. So this was years ago, actually, that I downloaded them when they were on sale on May 4th. So, I play those pretty regularly, I'll say, along with the updated 2015 and 2017 Battlefronts that EA has put out. But hey, if that's your jam and you haven't downloaded it yet and you want to replay some of these games, then by all means, go out and do it. I hope that you have a great time with that, and it's a lot of fun. I know those games meant a lot to me, again, like I said, so I hope that a lot of people are able to explore them and to revisit some nostalgia or to create some new memories with these games as well, because that's always something we hope that transpires when you open up a new journey like that. So that's all the news that I could compile for this week. We'll be back on the other side of this very short break with our Bad Batch discussion for this week. Stay tuned. All right, everybody, welcome back to Force Ghost Conversations. It is Bad Batch season. We are in the throes of it all. We're over a quarter of the way through. We're almost halfway through the final season of the Bad Batch. And we're so thrilled to have back this week to discuss episodes 6 and 7, Infiltration and Extraction. Of course, none other than Mrs. Force Ghost Conversations, Elise King. Welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I am back.
You took a week off for health reasons. So it was
and for everyone's sake, it was not going to be pretty.
In hindsight, it was a pretty wise choice. I think, not having you on.
You're welcome, audience.
But I did promise the audience I shared what you kind of shared with me a little bit there in last week's episode. But I did want to at least give you the floor if you can recall any other lasting impressions that you had of the episode. I wanted to at least give you the floor before we got into these two episodes this week to
The
at least
reunion
address the
episode?
reunion. Yeah, the return, as the episode is affectionately
Mm-hmm.
titled. Any lingering thoughts on that one?
I'm sure everyone else has already said it, but one of my favorite tropes in like books, movies, TV shows is when there's like big drama,
Mm-hmm.
people leave and then they come back and there's a reunion. I like people having to sit in the uncomfortable moments and like live in the consequences of their actions. And so seeing what
That's just so funny. Like you want them to like sit in the consequence.
I want to see how people act when they're confronted with difficult moments, and there's nothing more difficult than like being faced with things people feel ashamed of or like guilty of or even just conflicted about. And so seeing those moments with Hunter and Crosshair were really satisfying to me.
What was that TikTok we saw the one time where it was like the consequences of my actions are consequencing?
Yeah.
He just kept doing that for 5 minutes.
Well, I was just really glad to see it because honestly, sometimes to be like in a completely like stereotypical way, men come back together and they kind of like bump fists and grunt and they're like, you sucked, and they're like, yeah, I messed up, man, and then like they're over it.
Yeah.
And there was a bit of that, but there was like some serious moments between Hunter and Crosshair that I really appreciated in terms of character development, and it just made me believe how they're learning to come back together again. So I just loved it. Underscore loved it. It's why I love the Bad Batch. It's like the real human moments.
Yeah.
And I think we saw some of those conversations even play out in a great and fun way in the next two episodes that we're going to talk about.
Right. Last question on this before we move on to the new episodes. Were you bummed that it didn't go from the like a direct continuation of that like kind of cliffhanger from the previous episode to episode 4?
Yeah, because I want to live in as much of the uncomfortable as possible.
Yeah.
So ideally, I would have loved to just see them like stare at each other for a while.
Yeah.
But obviously, nothing important happened off camera because the first time we see Hunter and Crosshair address it is on screen. So it's not like we missed anything. I still would have loved to see like facial expressions, weird dynamics, things like that. But it was still satisfying because I think it was true to Wrecker that like he's not going to think about it too hard. He's just so glad Omega's back.
Yeah.
But Hunter is going to like really hold that grudge. So they needed to address the elephant in the room.
Right. I think you're correct on that point. If it was important, they would have shown it to us, but it wasn't the main focus of it.
No.
They have, and it needed to take place in such an environment that it would affect Crosshair, right? It's this place where he made this choice.
Yeah, and I think you're right. The mission, like the location, forced Crosshair to be more vulnerable, and then the stress of it and the like urgency of the situation forced Hunter to interact and cooperate with Crosshair and work together as a team. So it just kind of brought resolution, I think, around faster than just like talking on a rock.
Yeah, I think this season more than probably any so far, I mean, at least in terms of our conversations about it, has the choices of what they show versus what they don't show impacted how we react and reflect on the series so far. So I'm thinking in this example with Crosshair, I'm thinking them not showing the conversation, they just showing the faces because, like I said, it would have taken away from the Omega, the joy of seeing her progress, which has come up in these last couple of episodes here. So kudos, I think, to the team putting together, both writing wise, the animation, executing the direction of all that, to really focus on what are the pieces that we absolutely need to see in this last season to drive home the key points that they're trying to address.
Yeah, and I wonder if we would feel those choices or even acknowledge them as much if we didn't know it was the last season. I think everything is analyzed and seen in a closer view in a last season moment.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. Unfortunately, we'll never know. But maybe this, as viewers, we can take this experience to other things that we're able to watch and think through how we would analyze it from a different perspective on those fronts. So.
Yeah, sometimes you don't want to analyze though.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to turn your brain off. I tell you what, though, Listeners, we just watched Kung Fu Panda 2 for the first time, and boy, my brain was ticking there in terms of like
themes.
I felt like I was in English class again, being like, is that representative of the Chinese government being taken over by the English in the 1800s?
Yeah, I know. Can't turn it off anymore.
Yeah. Oh, well. Speaking of diving deep into more episodes of things, we have 2 episodes of The Bad Batch. A double dose, if you will.
I would say 1 long episode.
But I'm also, that's, I guess, where my first question thought. First off, spoiler alert to anybody if you haven't watched episodes 6 and 7, Infiltration and Extraction. You go watch those on your Disney Plus now, and you come right back to this moment. You have been forewarned. But there was 2 episodes, but it's more like 1 long movie episode.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't episodic at all.
Are you glad that it wasn't like the cliffhanger, and then we had to wait another week to find the resolution? Are you glad that they just said like, all right, here you go, take it?
I mean, always.
Yeah.
But I kind of expect it now. That's how they've done it for the most part. Especially if it's not like, not everything has to be resolved by the end of an episode, but like this was 1 long show.
It fit the narrative well.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it fit it well. I kind of expect it now. Like if they had shut it off and then how they did, I would have been like, that's unusual. Because that's not what Disney seems to be doing recently.
Yeah, agreed. This is definitely an episode of like, whoa, it's that guy. Hey, it's that guy. Oh, hey, they're back together.
I know, you have obviously I recognize everyone. They're clones. They all
My quick recognition is really fast.
Yeah, but you're like very fast, and I'm like,
I'm even that way in real life when we're like the celebration, right? Where you're like, how do you recognize these people so fast?
Oh yeah, in crowds of thousands, I have no idea it's your superpower, but
hey, I'll take it.
It was very helpful for me when I was trying to like pinpoint, like, how do I know that clone? Because the voice is similar, obviously, the face is similar, but there's something about him that I remember, but I don't know where. So that was helpful.
There was a plethora of friendly faces, kind of friendly faces, in some regards. Wolf was kind of edging there for a while on the who knows if he's good or bad, but
friendly to me.
Friendly to he chooses friendly at the end. Yeah, he chooses friendly, and we'll see where that goes from there. But Wolf is in this episode. Hauser makes a reappearance. Hot Hauser is definitely back in this. From an earlier season of The Bad Batch. We got Fireball, which was exciting for me to hear again from the Clone Wars. Of course, Rex again, Senator Chuchi, Senator Avi Singh, which I believe from a Clone Wars episode or early episode of The Bad Batch, one of the 2. Definitely a gathering of folks in this episode, and as you know, when people gather, something's going to go wrong.
There's too many players on the board.
There's always too many things, and this episode not only starts with this interaction between Avi Singh and Senator Chuchi, and that's where I kind of want to start here. Is like you seeing this interaction, you're seeing 2 people across the table here: a former separatist, a person that's kind of working on behalf of the clones in the Senate currently in the Empire. What are they trying to do here? What do you think? What do you make of this conversation? What do you think is their ultimate plan that they could be doing? Why are they meeting?
I don't think they really have one. I was sitting there and I was like, this is what's frustrating about the beginning of the Republic, because
or the beginning of the Empire.
The rebels or
rebellion. They're banging the
rebellion because there's like. And it's normal in an empire this big, but it's frustrating to watch all these different factions trying to quote unquote rebel. And we see them in different stories, like not just in the Bad Batch. And we even see like infighting eventually within the rebellion, which again is all very realistic, but it's frustrating to watch because I was like, what do you mean you're talking about? Like your countries are occupied, like your planets are occupied. Like, what do you think you're going to do, the 2 of you? But that's how these rebellions start. So I was trying to be like, okay, well, it has to start.
You have to give them a little bit of a grace to be like somewhere they gotta.
But I think it is frustrating to know, like, this is why it takes like a decade plus to get anything going because it's so disparate at this point. And so I was just sitting here like, I guess this is how it starts. But like, what do you think you're going to do? You don't have a plan. Like this wasn't even like the beginnings of a plan. This was like saying, hey, I want to have a plan.
Right. And they're like, oh, well, if we get enough senators to voice out against Emperor Palpatine, right, his influence will be swayed. And I'm like, come on, don't be naive.
Yeah, it's still not, and I understand it because on some level the empire is so big, like through bureaucracy, you can see cracks and you can see how to take advantage of the system, but no one knows how truly evil Palpatine is.
Yeah.
They know the empire is evil, but they do not know like the extent of Palpatine's powers, which is one of his greatest strengths, is he stays in the shadows on some level.
And no one knows how to manipulate a system better than Chief Palpatine.
And they don't even know, like, they don't even know like the power side of it. Like he's manipulating the Force, like.
Yeah, exactly.
So there is like such a big level of naivete, and it's because they're basing their rebellion off of this is how we can take advantage of stormtroopers, not this is how we overthrow an evil emperor who has the most power in all the land.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you 100%. It's like, it is frustrating to watch them because you're like, as an audience, I know what comes and I know how long it takes.
And the sacrifices it takes.
And the sacrifices, yeah. However many clones and people we know and care about along the way that are lost because of time.
On the other level, though, like, I think we would be complaining if there weren't stakes in Star Wars. I mean, that's a complaint we've seen near the end of the trilogies that we have now.
Yeah.
But like, we want stakes. We want there to be like pain and suffering to like make the sacrifices worth it and the victory satisfying. But it's still painful to know because you care about the characters, and especially because like, you know, the clones are just a huge casualty in this. So
exactly.
And it's sad because they're getting older from their aging. Like,
they
it's a cruel life. It's such a cruel life, and it hits me more and more every time we watch it.
Yeah, we're like a little over 10 years before we see Rex and Rebels. And
I know you were like, oh, he ages. And I was like, yeah, like, think about if they had won and there still had been no, like...
And he's like 25, really?
Like, the Republic's still there, and like, he's 25, but he looks 60, and you're just like, oh, what a tough and cruel life that these clones were set up for.
Yeah. Clones are... It's their tragedy is one of the hardest things to watch in Star Wars. Is built for a purpose, then tossed aside.
Yeah, it really is. And the more you see it through Bad Batch, which I think like is one of the points, right? We're supposed to be empathizing and understanding what happens to the clones. Ooh, it's hard, especially when you see more clones die in this episode.
Yeah, when you get the band back together, you also have that fear internally when you're watching for the first time, being like, is this the last time we see the band back together?
Yeah, and I think like last episode with the reunion, like Tech's absence was felt even more because they're not in fight or flight mode. They're in, we're together and we need to figure out next steps, and like that's a Tech thing.
And they even acknowledged it. If he was here, we could do this easily, but because he's not, we have to go to this outpost.
Now we have every clone we like in one place, and Tech's not there. It was hard.
Yeah. I was like, oh, definitely. There's a seat at the table. Someone's not here.
Yeah.
And so in that gathering there, one of the assassin clones that we saw in season 2 of the Bad Batch reappear, and their intent is to take out the 2 senators that are there, and they actually are able to capture this guy. And we learn throughout the course of the next episode about this kind of new program that they're doing, where they're wiping away basically the memory of these clone troopers, or taking away their identity.
Yeah, they're brainwashing them.
Which is
they're a winter soldier. If you're gonna,
they are winter soldiering them. That's a really great point. But it makes it so much more. We just talked about how the clones were bred for a purpose, but through that process, and the best parts about the Clone Wars are seeing their individuality. Right, although they are one of many, they are only one of themselves. Despite that, they would change their hairstyles. They would create tattoos. They would have, even the Bad Batch, right? They were changing their armor, all that type of stuff to forge, just giving them a name, anything to create the sense of individuality. And then for Hemlock to be doing this program where he's stripping them of all of that and then making them out to just be mindless killers. I mean, like, it's the base purpose of what they were meant to do. Yeah. But
like basically what Palpatine wanted all along, but he couldn't like genetically get rid of the humanity of the clones.
Yeah.
it's only through torture and brainwashing you can do that.
I wonder, do you think they like gave him a new chip? Is it what do you think was the process for how that is like an updated
I thought
chip,
it was good
perhaps?
old torture.
Or good old torture plus a chip? Maybe it's a little of all that.
I think you think it's a chip.
I mean, maybe. I mean, I was just speculating, just thinking through it today. I'm like, oh, maybe they put a new inhibitor chip on it there, but then, because the one in their heads was about 10 years old. at most 10 years old by the time we get to the events of Revenge of the Sith, just about. So, like, maybe they're like, okay, as we've seen technology in our own lives over the last 10 years, right? If you go back and look at computers and our devices that we were using, it's so much more improved now. Maybe they put a different inhibitor chip in there that's able to wipe them away faster.
Yeah, I just remember them like injecting the clones on Tantus.
That's right.
So I thought it was like chemical torture.
Ooh, that's bad.
Yeah, I don't think Hemlock was like
Hemlock isn't a good guy at all.
The torture. Yeah. So
that was just for fun.
Yeah,
he didn't have to.
That was a side cut. Like that was like a let's see what we can do with the clones that don't match for M count. Oh my gosh.
Oh boy.
You were so excited and then so frustrated with the M count conversation.
Folks, yeah, when they were like talking about the stuff going on Tantus, right? They're kind of having that debrief. They're still figuring out the Tantus of it all. And they're like, oh, Omega's important, right? They're taking blood. They're after her. She's on this puck that they're searching for, right? These senators. And Omega's included on it too. And like, oh, why is Omega important? They're taking the blood. And and then she's like, something about M count, right? They're trying to see about this. And they have no idea what that means. I'm like, come on, just say it. Maybe Rex just be like, oh, I heard a Jedi once say midichlorian. I don't know what it means, but let's look it up in this database. I don't know, something like that, right? Just say the word. We're so close every time.
It goes to my theory, though, that like if you don't know what it is, and you're not going to say midichlorian, you're just going to say M count because it's easier.
Oh, obviously. I'm just saying. I'm thinking like Rex may have heard it at some point when he's with Anakin and Obi-Wan, all those battles throughout the Clone War. Maybe Ahsoka mentioned it.
He did say like, "Oh, I've heard it before."
MCAT. I'm just saying, what does it mean? What does it mean? They kept saying.
I know you wanted to
just say it, the word midichlorian, and be like, "Oh, it's the symbiotic microorganisms in your blood." That's how we communicate with the Force. As the Jedi once told me that. Obi-Wan.
No, you wouldn't. That's not organic. That's not authentic.
It wouldn't be, but it would be so awesome.
It'd be validating for you.
It would be so great
because of your baggage you hold from the earlier years.
Yeah, I won't let it go until it's resolved.
Okay. Well, obviously they'll talk about it in the future ones. They've met the clones. They now have another ally through Wolf. They're going to have to go meet other allies to get whatever they want to do. It sounds like more and more they're all about freeing the clones.
Yes. Freeing the clones.
Nothing about the rebellion.
To what end, though?
To free them.
Just to free them. And then
I think so.
For free will beyond that. I mean, it's obvious that they don't
have a plan beyond that.
Then the Empire doesn't care about just clones.
Oh, what if all the clones are just on Pabu, like living a glorious life at the end of this?
That would be great. I would be all for that. Unfortunately, I don't foresee a happy ending being in the future for many of these guys. This is something that kind of you and I talked about in this episode, where like, yeah, okay, they want to go to Tantus, they want to free these clones that are in captivity.
Yeah.
What
they don't have a plan.
Again, there is no plan beyond this.
It is to save their brothers.
They just want to save them, and then they'll figure it out after that. If there is an after that.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, are they gonna fight? Are they gonna do this clone little mini rebellion?
I don't think so, because like Rex is like seems more and more about freeing the clones on Tantus. Hunter's not interested, but Omega is, so she's obviously going to convince him.
Yeah.
Hey, we need to do the right thing here, because she feels some guilt for leaving them.
Right.
But beyond that, I don't think they're like. I think they're like, this isn't our fight.
Yeah, and with Omega just going to keep getting hunted until there's a resolution to that somehow.
Obviously, Hemlock is going down.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I think he'll be done by the end of the season.
I think so too. I mean,
I hope that worm doesn't slither his way around.
I'm trying not to focus on the negative. There are positives. Who will die on the way? We don't know.
Yeah. I think that's something, I mean, we try not to talk about the episode as soon as they happen, folks. But sometimes we're just like, we just look at each other and we can't help ourselves. And the M count was one of them.
Yeah.
We're just like, let's just say it. And then the other one was, we were literally like, okay, so you want to free them, and then what? We literally just like couldn't help ourselves from just. You and I are pragmatists. We think long term. We think through. It's literally our jobs to think 3 steps ahead. Mm-hmm. And when people aren't doing that, we're like, what are you doing, guys? You're setting yourselves up for failure and disappointment.
I don't know.
So,
what do you think happens with Crosshair? He's shooting 50-50 at this point.
I was going to say even less. We're talking like 20.
Well, I just said 50-50 because...
when he was trying to shoot that assassin guy?
Yeah, but he does hit something and makes him buried.
Because he shoots like a bomb. He shoots off like a grenade almost that explodes. So it's like he couldn't miss.
Well, I don't know, because the reason I say 50-50 because it was when he was on Pabu practicing.
Oh, you're adding that into the.
He said, "Hey, you're hitting the target 50% of the time."
Okay, you're right.
So, like,
you're right. I was going off this one instance here.
Yeah, no,
he's degraded a lot. It's this practice session.
I'm scared for Crosshair. I don't know if I foresee a happy ending for him.
Yeah, I think first off, Star Wars has a long history of
killing off tortured
characters with torture. Yeah, to just not letting him sulk in it for forever.
No, they dramatically save others.
They definitely get redemption through sacrifice in many cases.
Yeah.
And I would be worried about him personally too. I did like that they had that interaction there, Omega and him, where he was like, "Are you sure you got all the gear? Can he handle all of that?" And she's like, "You're just as bad as Hunter." Right? He's definitely has shown this connection between.
Oh my gosh, I got so scared seeing him. Like when Crosshair kept being like, "Stay behind me,
mm-hmm.
I go first," with really protecting Omega. Like I was like, "Oh no."
Yeah.
Omega is bonding with Crosshair. They have a good relationship. It is the sign of the end for Crosshair because
could be
the only one who's bonded so far with Omega and hasn't died is Wrecker.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Hunter too.
Well, Hunter too.
But
yeah.
I was just like, I'm seeing Tech all over again. They bonded.
They built it up over the season too. So keep an eye on that one, folks.
It was really heartwarming to see that, like. And I think that's what I meant, like having those conversations with Hunter and like reconciling with the team show that like it's not just because they were on Tantus together. Like Crosshair and Omega really do have a good working loving relationship, and Crosshair cares for her and like wants to protect her and like is really acting like that big brother now, and that made me so happy, but scared.
Yeah. I think we should all be. We have every right to be scared when it comes to these characters, that we don't know the outcome of them, and we only have a certain amount of episodes left. Yeah. And his skills are feigning. Feigning, like if they're weighing down.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a guy that really. I mean, he tried to. I'm interested by that tidbit that they said where they were like he tried to be a part of that shadow assassin trooper program.
I don't think he tried.
And then he failed out. I don't know if that was like.
So I remember in one of the first few episodes when they were showing him this season on Tantus, Hemlock says something of like he has resisted conditioning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't think he tried to be a part of it. I think they tried to torture him and force him into being that kind of person. And he's so defective, quote unquote, through his like stubbornness that they couldn't afford. Like he's too mentally resilient.
Okay.
So I don't think it was like he was trying to be a part of it. I think they were trying to force him into it.
Gotcha. Interesting. Because I interpreted that he wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah,
he just couldn't take to the program or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember Hemlock saying he wasn't taking the programming right. So
interesting.
And that if he was out on Tantus, then he was a prisoner at that point.
Right.
So nothing was
said. Yeah.
Was on his will.
Another side
Look
instance.
at me remembering something.
Look at you.
Yay!
Good job. And let's stick with the crosshair thing here too, because as a person that enjoys tortured souls conversations, Hauser really let him have it in these two episodes.
Which is fair.
Yeah, what did you think about that? Because that was almost in a way to a separate but different conversation, but similar vein is the Hunter conversation with him in the previous episode.
I mean, you have to live with the consequences of your actions, and you have to be able. Only through action can you build trust.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be weird if one of the clones just accepted Crosshair, knowing like how hard Crosshair hunted the clones.
Yeah, and literally, he's like, "You caused the deaths of my men."
Yeah. So Hemlock,
you alone did this.
Hauser should be saying that. So I think Hot Hauser is saying what's on our minds, and like we know his story, but he doesn't. So it's completely right in the character arc.
Yeah, I was glad seeing Hauser in this episode, not only because it was a loose thread that I was worried about a little bit. Like, where did he go? What happened to him? We don't see a resolution here in this episode. I'm glad that he's with Rex. I mean, he could have been on Tantus as a prisoner, right? We don't know exactly until now that we had a resolution to that. It's good to see Gregor too. We're kind of getting the band again. The band's back together, folks, and with that,
I know you pulled out. You like at the end of the episode, you're like, oh, I see how like the three we see during Rebels. Wolf, Gregor, and Rex like are slowly coming back together, where they end up hunting desert worms. I was so scared Hot Hauser died.
You were like, that's it? That's him?
It's like, was he the one with the fire blaster for a second? Like and you're like, no.
I was like, until we see it, we can't confirm. Yeah. And then I showed it, and then we saw him later. I'm like, oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Little did we know it was our boy Fireball, or at least my boy Fireball.
I know, R.I.P.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that they lulled themselves into a false sense of security, thinking that they could talk to this guy and thinking that there was no way that he would be tracked. Not thinking that Hemlock would have
they did say outsmarted them.
It's everything that they had to the best of their ability.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
But they never thought that like this madman has another way.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's just showing like people are only. I mean, it's just like you can only estimate your enemy by the like breadth of your imagination. And the clones are pragmatists on some level, so they're going to make choices based off of what they know, not what they imagine to be true.
Right.
And so it was unfortunate for sure.
So they send a new guy first, a new assassin out there.
He was good at his job.
And boy, did they spend a lot of time on that guy.
I know. You have a theory. You have a theory that like I don't want it to be true because it would be so heartbreaking, but at the same time so selfishly great.
Yeah, it's definitely a catch. It's a coin flip there on like how you want to feel about it, because okay, so spoilers to
just say
not spoiler, but I had a theory. I surmised it might have been Tech, right? I thought all throughout both episodes, like they're spending so much time on this guy. He's talking.
I know you said it, and I was like,
and then at the end, when they showed him coming out of the water, because he's this big climactic battle with the Bad Batch at the end, and he goes down this huge waterfall and then appears, and I thought he was going to take off his helmet to reveal that it was Tech reprogrammed into being this assassin thing.
My heart.
But they didn't. They like kept it out there. And like, oh, well, maybe in the next couple of episodes, but they probably would have showed it there. It was a perfect opportunity to do it. I don't know.
I don't know. I think like you're right. They did spend a lot of time on him. Getting into the base, following him. I could definitely see him being like, that's the new person who's constantly hunting them.
Yeah.
And he's
they
going
need
to
a
make
new
it
crosshair.
a personal vendetta, not just what the Empire is telling him. And I could see them getting in a battle and his helmet coming. Oh my gosh, it's just the drama. My heart can't take it.
Now, logistically, there were some things there where I was like, okay, they only have so many episodes left. If they reveal it to be him in a later episode, then they kind of have to resolve all that.
But to be devil's advocate, not 1 minute of any of these episodes has been wasted.
No, it hasn't.
They are packing every minute
everything is purposeful. So maybe there's a way that they can do it. I'm just thinking in my head. They have to reveal them. They have to deal with the shock of it. Then they have to resolve it. That's probably 3 episodes. in doing that, and I'm like, okay, then you have about 3 episodes more to conclude the series.
They could be resolving it at the end, where all of a sudden Crosshair is sacrificing himself for Tech, and now Tech's back, but he's not the same. But Crosshair's gone, even though he redeemed himself, and then they have to figure out how to live with that. Oh my god!
So they live on Pabu, dealing with their.
And Pabu becomes a refugee island where people deal with PTSD due to the trauma inflicted by the Empire. It makes perfect sense, and now my heart is crushed and happy at the same time.
The other side of that coin, though, is the stakes of characters not actually passing when they are shown to kind of pass on screen, right? Star Wars has a history of just pulling characters back into the fold.
But if Crosshair dies. And Tech's still is it tortured? I don't know for you, when we found Echo in Clone Wars, right? And we saw what was done to him.
Yeah.
I felt like that was still stakes.
Yeah.
Because not only was he tortured, half machine, he wasn't the same person anymore. And we saw a lot of episodes of him learning to deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to me, that's still high stakes. I don't think stakes just means death. I mean, I think stakes means you're never the same again. And there's pain and suffering.
Yeah.
That would be true suffering for what Tech went through.
Right. It'd be like PETA in the Hunger Games.
I think a little bit more emotionally resonant than that. You laugh at that. You find it funny.
As soon as you said that, I was waiting to pull that joke out.
Oh man. I mean, I'm wild.
They take off his helmet. They have him in some Pabu facility and fees Tech, it's me. Her.
Oh my gosh. I'm wildly speculating, but
yeah, we're going off the rails when it comes to this. So
but when you
we
said
could
that,
be entirely
my heart
wrong.
and mine went in a million different directions. So,
well, we'll have to see if any of that comes true, or if it's just another clone that was.
Will my heart survive till the end of the season? I don't know.
I think you will. I think I know that you'll make it to Debatable, but pretty close to succeeding. You're almost halfway there. I mean, there was 15 episodes. You're at 7.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they pace it in terms of how much they release for the rest of the time.
Yeah, I think there's a couple. I mean, I can see. So there's 1-2 episode thing.
Yeah, arc
coming up, and then the rest are weekly.
Okay.
So so just kind of wrapping up here, the assassin comes. And then when they realize that Omega's there, they send an extraction team led by Wolf to come get Omega and keep her alive, even though there's some great back and forth of them being I need to not working well together, this assassin and the group of clones that came there.
It's interesting that Wolf is not super brainwashed. I mean, it kind of brings up that question from season 1 of Bad Batch, where it was some clones seem super brainwashed. Is that just their natural really tendency? Yeah. And then some are fighting it, questioning it, wondering why clones are being pushed to the side. And Wolf definitely seems in that latter camp. So it is that question of is it just a personal tendency to obey without without any question? And I think Crosshair is kind of the representation of that versus let's think about this for a second and let's just do the right thing regardless of who's telling us what to do.
Right. Wolf is an interesting case because we don't know if he's a Shippin or not, but at this point, does it really matter? I mean,
that's what I say. At some point, it doesn't seem like it matters. Choice? Yeah.
Does he want to be with the Empire because he knows nothing else, and they still find use for him and value?
Because if he's been useful and they haven't decommissioned him or put him into experimentation, his unit is obviously good.
Yeah, he's got commandos in there. He's got a whole
stuff.
Yeah, he's probably done stuff that he's not proud of, probably. Yeah. And he's, I don't know, again, what's going on in his brain and all that stuff, but where his sympathies lie to the Empire or not. He's the one that, in Rebels, alerts Callus to Kanan and Ezra being there. He's like, oh, the Jedi are here. We gotta report this to the Empire. He's the one that secretly puts that in there. So I don't know if there's something going on again in that brain of his.
I don't think so. I bet how Rex gets to him and how I think we see this through their last conversation is it's not about good or bad in terms of what the Empire or the Republic need or whatever. I think it's saving their brothers.
Mm-hmm.
It is about saving,
first and foremost, I think it
by
is. Yeah.
their brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And so for him, that's like a very narrow way of justifying going against orders and like doing the right thing or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think at that point, I mean, how I interpreted Wolf's actions in Rebels is like he is scared of losing what they have. Like they have found some sort of peace, like protecting themselves.
Yeah, they're still around. They get fed.
Yeah, and I'm sure like there is obviously a decent respect for authority there. So I'm wondering if he like justifies in his head like I'm going against Hemlock and Tantus, not this greater rebellion because I want to save my brothers, which is makes sense. That tracks for me.
That does, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Now, I guess that's my last thought here again. That we've talked a little bit here about us being more thinking long term about things and the consequences of our actions. What would be the consequence of Wolf not getting them, not getting Rex, not getting these traitors to the Empire, not getting Omega, letting them go? Like, are there going to be any consequences for him as a result of this? Maybe we don't get that answer honestly, but I'm worried for his safety personally, as a person that wants to see the character become a part of this group that is on what we consider to be the good side. I want him to join that, and now I'm concerned for his safety that Hemlock will be like, you let this go. They were right in your grasp, and you let them walk
That's
because
if anyone tells.
And that's if anyone tells. That's right. And I wonder if there's someone with like you don't know what everyone else is doing, that in their after action reports, if there's any inconsistency, Hemlock is going to be earmarked
so you think
for
people
that.
Tell, and then like he has to go on the run, and that's how he.
I'm worried about that, frankly. Yeah, I don't want him to be harmed. But I gotta think that Hemlock's this is priority number one for him. If you do anything to inhibit that.
So my thought, this is my guess, it seems like all the people with him were clones.
Yeah, that was my assumption as well.
So I think he has complete control over them. They're loyal to him. They will tell the story he needs. I don't think Hemlock finds out. I think we're going to go around. Omega's going to convince everyone to start collecting allies to go against Tantus, right? I mean, Rex alluded they need a huge force to be able to do that. And one of the people they'll call on is Wolf and his clone troopers that are loyal to him. So to me, he gets away with it. And then they obviously I think they become like another ally for the battle. And that's how they get more people. I think it's going to be an amalgam of like Wolf's people, maybe some pirates and like, the syndicate, everyone that Omega's made friends with could come and help on Tantus. We'll see. That's my guess. I'm just trying to put all the pieces together from the other seasons, but I think he gets away with it for now.
I sure hope so. The only outlier I can think of would be if that, and he didn't see it, so I don't think that's necessarily going to come into play. But if that assassin guy is able to spill, because they didn't have any connection to each other. He didn't. I don't know if he has like some recording device somewhere, perhaps that. It would be a little bit of a cop-out if you ask me, if he just had like some
I don't think
video thing that was recording it.
Either someone tells on Wolf or his trooper. Like, I think he's a secret source for.
Yeah, I just don't want him to be betrayed. Like, I think he made the right choice, and I don't want him to be betrayed for that.
Oh, he will be.
But I know he will be, and it's or he'll get the ball rolling because he needs a little kick in the pants to leave the Empire.
So something will happen.
Why am I worried about a character I know the outcome for? I just don't want to see him be tortured along the way. Yeah.
Yeah, I care about the clones, like we both do.
Yes, exactly. They're good. They're good. They're
good characters.
They were just, bred for
Filoni made us care about them.
They were bred for a darn purpose to kill Jedi and die along the way and just be pawns in a great galactic chess game one guy played against himself.
Yep, basically.
Anyways, folks, that is the Bad Batch.
I know, every time we end on like a horrible note, we're like, well, talk to you next week, everyone.
Well, let's just say next week's episode is called Bad Territory.
That could mean a lot of things, though. That could be like pirates.
Like if they said it was called Good Territory, I'd be more concerned that like something bad was going to happen.
Also, how many play on Bad Batch can we do?
If it's directly called Bad Territory, I'm like nothing's
maybe it's Bad Batch Territory.
it's Bad Batch season. So yeah, they're gonna go back to Pabu and sit and have some crab.
No, right.
They're just gonna eat and relax on the beach. Nothing will go wrong. It'll be the most boring episode ever. Fans will riot on the TikToks, the Twitters,
and you'll be happy.
And you and I'll just sit here and go, boy, wasn't that a relaxing episode?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it.
Wasn't that so nice? They just sat there. You know, they had some blue milk.
Wrecker ate all the sushi he wanted.
Yep. They got some ribs out. They just had the full meal from Galaxy's Edge. They had a Ronto wrap. They enjoyed themselves for an episode. It was a nice, pleasant experience. I don't think it's going to happen, but we can just manifest it. We'll put it out there in the universe.
Yeah, manifesting.
Let's see if it happens, guys. Any last thoughts on this episode before we close out?
No. Love the Bad Batch.
Love the Bad Batch indeed. Another 2-episode extravaganza that was this week, and another 2-episode win in my book for fans of the show. A lot of great characters coming back in the fray. I'm just thinking about the trailer because we got a lot of characters to really experience again soon. About Fennec Shand, we got Cad Bane coming back. Asajj Ventress somehow is in this. We got a lot more characters to get really like, ooh, it's them, ooh, it's them, ooh, it's them.
Mm-hmm. Omega's going to work her magic. Bounty hunters are going to come and be reversed to the call. I don't know, but Omega's going to work her magic.
Yeah, Omega will do the Omega.
Yeah, they'll Avenger assemble it.
Mm-hmm. And it'll be the guy from the second episode when they were trying to find Hunter and Wrecker, like that crime family there. Yep. They'll come back into this. Mm-hmm. Maybe Sid. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm sorry, I messed up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That'd be great. That'd be great. One last ride with the Bad Batch. Should be fun.
Yeah.
And then they ride off in the sunset and
I'll tell you I told
forever.
You so.
And you'll tell me, and I'll say thank you. Anywho, folks, that is all that we had for this week's Bad Batch breakdown, Bad Batch discussion. I don't really have a title for all this. We just come here and we chat all things Bad Batch. We talk about the themes. We take a deep dive into all the stuff. And we just have fun chatting about this great show that gives us some great escapism week in and week out here. So I hope you're enjoying it at home too. If you're really appreciating what we do here at Forest Ghost Conversations, I would love it if you consider checking us out on social media. Of course, we're available on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Hive. Just search for Forest Ghost Conversations and we'll be there in some capacity. And if you want to support the show even further, we have 2 other ways that you can do that. It includes our Patreon site, where for as little as $1 a month, you can get access to a ton of Forest Ghost Conversations goodies. We also have a TeePublic store where you can get merchandise, t-shirts, hoodies, baby onesies, pillows, anything like that with Forest Ghost Conversations merchandise on it. All those are linked in the episode description there, so all you have to do is go into the description. You can click on links and find all that fun stuff. So with all that, folks, that is all that we had for this week about the Bad Batch. We'll be back, of course, next week to chat about the next episode, episode 8, and I hope you join us for then. So until that time, may the Force be with you. Take care.